Hello everyone, welcome back. So today I'm in Britain's largest port of Felixstowe. But do you know what? There is so much more here than just the port. You might be surprised. So right now I've come to the port itself, and there's the big old ships. In fact, a lot of people love coming down here to look at some of the very large container ships that pull into the port of Felixstowe, and one of the biggest in the world does pop in from time to time. But if you like your history, it's definitely worth coming down to Landguard Fort. What was once a bit of a moat. Originally built back in 1540, Landguard Fort has got so much history in here, and it's absolutely fascinating to walk around in there. It was here to protect against enemies and of course the mouth of the river. My wife Gabby's actually covered this, and I'll put the link in the description if you want to have a bit more of a look round. So you can't anymore because this is all gated off, but as a kid I remember walking up there, standing on the roof, health and safety back in the day, but keeping the enemy out. In fact, if you look down here, you can see some tracks just going down there where they used to carry some ammunition or some guns. As you can see, Landguard Fort does cover quite a big area, and there's loads of tiny little outbuildings that are now all kind of gated off. You can't really get into them unless if you've got special permission. There's still one actually just up here that's been left open. See pieces of history just littered around. Let's just get in it. Oh, smells of wee. People use it as a toilet. There's loads more of this and so much more inside Landguard Fort. There's even a bit of a pier here actually, which is quite a nice spot if you want to come and look at the ships and check out the scenery. So if you bought a new car recently, maybe some cosmetics, a sofa, it's surprising what comes into the port of Felixstowe and how important this is to the UK. What a lot of people try to do is to get them to honk their horns. It is ultra clear today. You can see Harwich in the distance behind those boats. And also a pretty unique experience taking the ferry over towards Harwich across one of the busiest shipping lanes in the UK. So we're starting right at the far end of the seafront. You can just see how you can get to Landguard Fort by walking in that direction. Of course, we're going to head towards the pier and also down the seafront towards the old part of Felixstowe. Back in the 1930s, you know, Felixstowe was quite a big resort. It had a very lavish hotel, which we'll go and check out the remains of it. And of course, it's got ties to Billy Butlin as well, as he opened up his very first resort. So just on the corner of Beach Station Road, you can still see the original brickwork of the front of the Cavendish Hotel, which used to sit in this very spot back in the 30s. It was a very lavish hotel. Not quite sure what's going to be on this site once more, but it's been like this for a number of years. This also used to hold the rather famous Sunday market here in Felixstowe. So this is Manning's Amusements, and any fans of Butlin's might like to know, or may know, that this was Billy Butlin's first ever resort back in 1933. He used to hold his amusement park here, and some of the original Billy Butlin's buildings are still here. I'll show you them. It was an amusement park for many years. So Manning's is now home to Beach Street, which is a unique development using upcycled shipping containers. And businesses are in here offering street food, arts, crafts, and also quirky boutiques and shops, which is actually a really good idea. So I have fond memories of this place as a kid. It was an amusement park up until probably about properly 10 years ago. But this is one of the original buildings from Billy Butlin's time, which was known as a big fun house. And going in there as a kid, it was pretty amazing. There were some pretty amazing things in there. You could literally go into all of these different rooms and there was stuff to do in them, including a large ball pool at the end. Almost feel like it should be a listed building, but it's been here for so long. This is where the entrance used to be. Just give the lady your token and go inside. I think it's now a shop. So obviously this whole area was filled with amusements and rides. There used to be a big wheel on the top of that building. Health and safety wouldn't allow that anymore. Still home to a Sunday market as well. I even remember me and Gabby came here once to Beach Fest, which I don't think they've ever had since. If you look closer you can still see the theming to when it used to be an amusement park. I remember Dodgems used to be in there. But it was quite a small site, but did pack quite a lot in here. Now it's just little shops, but I do like that container part. And if you look closer you can still see amusements and old signage from the old days when it was an amusement park. So we'll leave Manning's behind, we'll head up towards the pier and eventually onto the old part of Felixstowe, which is really beautiful. Always one thing about Felixstowe though, and that's parking. In the summer it gets very busy and you've kind of got to park literally just on the seafront. And the best thing about it is there's no time limit, so you can stay here as long as you want. This used to look a lot different as well from what I remember. That used to be known as the Family Amusements. The same company that owns that owns the pier and Wellington Pier in Great Yarmouth. Now in the centre bit between the road and the beach you've got these seafront gardens that don't overly look as great as they once did. No real flowers in here. And you'll look back at this in the winter and just look how dead the grass is. It's just yellow. And my parents used to take me here when I was younger. It was a rather posh little restaurant, still is quite popular, the Regal Fish Bar and Restaurant. One of the grandest hotels on the seafront. We'll show you in a little bit. Last time I was here it was boarded up, so it'll be interesting to see if they've done anything. Felixstowe has had a problem in the past with flooding, and you'll see these big floodgates that are actually shut from the 1st of October till the 1st of May. So if you ever want to get to the beach, you kind of have to jump over them. The beach is shingle, but thanks to the rock berms they've put in to stop the erosion, it actually has created a bit more of a beach than there once was. And of course if it wasn't for these rocks they'd put in along the seafront, Felixstowe seafront would look a lot different after the tidal surges and storms we had in 2013. So coming up to what used to be a very grand hotel here in Felixstowe. It used to be very popular and popular for Sunday lunches. I used to go in there with my parents. Still boarded up. I don't know what the future holds for this hotel. Do let us know in the comments. I heard a couple of years ago that it was going to get a bit of a revamp. Thought someone had bought it, but doesn't look like anything is happening. It's quite sad to see really on the seafront, isn't it? It'd be so great to have a walk around in there and explore, wouldn't it? It's quite a big building to be left empty. Little miniature train here, look. Felixstowe has a lot of beach huts and they're literally spread all the way up the coast. And some of these beach huts are some of the oldest in the UK, dating back to 1885. Love the pastel colours though. So coming up to Felixstowe Pier, which had a multi-million-pound revamp about 7 years ago now, owned by the same company that owns the Wellington Pier and I believe the Britannia Pier in Great Yarmouth as well. So you can't actually walk out to the end of the pier. You can walk halfway out. They don't have much else on there. I used to be able to get a permit to do sea fishing off the end of it. Let us know if you have some memories of the old pier, but the new pier looks very similar to the Wellington Pier in Great Yarmouth. And it's actually got a really nice restaurant on here. I love it. You can get some food and listen to the sound of the waves. Oh, this is new. Outside bar. So you can still see the old pier. Like I say, all this was redone. And then you can see the old pier just here. I mean, I don't know about engineering, but it looks pretty safe to me, but it isn't open to the public anymore and hasn't been for a number of years. I think there used to be a slide on here. Someone's swimming there, look. Water doesn't look very nice today. Well, the tide's in at the minute, so I can't go too far under the pier, but this is probably one of the newest piers I've been under. It's quite interesting actually to see the new supports and then the old supports. I'm going to get soaked. So new, in fact, you can still see the number that was put in for the supports there. And they're pretty simple design really, a grid system, and then like most of us, if we've got a little bit of a balcony, slightly thicker wood supports. What's pretty special about the pier is the stained glass window that they've got at the front, which is pretty unique. A lot of piers don't have that kind of thing. Whoever said new designs of piers don't look good, that looks pretty grand. A couple of restaurants up here, takeaway fish and chips. So you can see this side of the pier, there is a little bit more of a beach as well to enjoy. Last time I was here was a good 14 months ago, and that was still for sale. And I thought people were buying beach huts like crazy. I think with the current economic climate, people won't be affording to spend on a beach hut. So there's two ways into the town centre, and they're quite steep roads, just one up there and another one further up here. As we walk towards the Spa Pavilion, nice places to eat as well. It's nice to see the investment on the whole seafront gardens in Felixstowe. They actually do stretch all the way up the seafront past the Spa Pavilion, which we'll go and check out, but you kind of get a little bit of a taste just here. Of course, it used to be very grand back in the 1970s. I believe that's the same water fountain that has always been here as well. And in fact, just up there you get some great views over the seafront. Got some old photos of Felixstowe along here, look. So the view you get from up here is pretty amazing. Also has got a bronze map here just to show you where you are and what you could see on a clear day. But you can see some of the big container ships coming in. It's amazing, you know, a lot of these container ships come from all over the world to dock into Felixstowe. You'll see some pretty houses along the seafront, especially from this end of the seafront towards the old end of Felixstowe. Get that American vibe with these houses and the wooden cladding. This is something they've started doing as well. In each of these restaurants and bars, putting seating out here. So from here, for around about a quarter of a mile, are the old seafront gardens in Felixstowe. Love that house. Look at that balcony up there. And the seafront gardens here have the original 1940s lights. So you can see how far they stretch. This is where I am now, and they stretch past the Spa Pavilion all the way up here. And there's some pretty interesting things to go and check out. A water clock and a bench which looks like it's been made out of twisted tree branches. Let's go and see what we can find. If you're going to own a beach hut, do it right. Look at that. So it's a shame they took away the water clock that was once standing there. But it must cost thousands of pounds for the upkeep of these seafront gardens. And a building that hasn't changed much in decades. If you want to go and see a show whilst you're here in Felixstowe, the Spa Pavilion. Always very picturesque up here. And of course the seafront gardens go all the way past the Spa Pavilion if you walk up there, but you can also get a drink down here because there's a bar that's literally just on the beach. People out enjoying the sea, the last hurrah of summer. So we have this thing in the UK where we do love a good seafront garden, and Felixstowe does have some pretty nice ones. They're pretty big as well, and it's really lovely just to have a stroll on a day like today. And there's loads of little areas like this one here where you can just sit in with a good book or just enjoy the view. How great is this? You can hear the birds and everything. The only thing that gets a little bit confusing is where do all the stairs and the paths go, because this one just goes right up to the cliff, and then you see another path and you're like, oh, I want to go and check that out, but then you've got to walk back down to get up. So, but it's great to explore. The Wicker family. That's pretty good. Is there a baby in there? Oh, there is. Well, a wicker baby, at least. And a little bit different, they've got a collection of beach chalets up here as well, on 3 different tiers. Heading next to the round pond. This is a historic water feature, apparently. It is a shame to see, though, gardens that are normally lush and green here in the UK look just awful at the minute. There's no greenery involved. In fact, if you're watching this maybe in the winter and you see the difference, obviously there'd also be many more plants here too, but I guess with the hosepipe ban that came into force a few weeks ago, this is a lovely walk from the Spa Pavilion. All in the shadow, of course, of the port of Felixstowe. You can still see the cranes in the distance. This looks a little bit more green, doesn't it? There's that famous bench that we were talking about. It's starting to show its age now, though. And there's a little waterfall here that you can walk almost under. I say almost, you can. There's even a fish in there, look. So coming out of the seafront gardens, you can see where we've been, just through here. Again, it's a lot better if you come back. You would normally say during the summer to see it in flower, but because of such the dry summer we've had, it's probably better to come back in spring or autumn. But the seafront continues all the way down to the old part of Felixstowe. Again, a lot better beach here. It's almost like a little mini holiday park with the chalets. Again, you can't stay in these overnight. See that grand big house, big history, that one. I think that's private flats now. It was once a home for the elderly, and I think before that someone very rich used to own it. It's crazy to think one person used to own all of that. They also had their own private access down to the beach, and a lot of houses further up, actually, some very, very big posh houses do have their own access down to the beach. You wouldn't think you're in the UK. A lot of these houses do remind you of being in America. There's this thing in the UK where if you want to buy a house that's non-standard construction, it's pretty hard to get a mortgage on it, which is such a shame. Look at this for a beach house. What's it called? Seashell. That is nice. And these beach huts up here do remind me of the beach huts in Shrewsbury-Ness, Southend. They've got their little balconies. So just driving up to the old end of Felixstowe, and what's really interesting is that you actually drive through a golf course. A few people playing today. Hopefully my car won't get hit by a golf ball. Just arrived in old Felixstowe at the Ferry Boat Inn. I think this has been here since the early 1900s, but it's a great place to come and grab a drink. It's got a nice beer garden as well. One of these really beautiful traditional seaside pubs with the really tiny windows. So now Felixstowe Ferry, and there's an old cafe in front of us that has been here for years. It's been through flooding and it's still managed to stay popular to this day. Parking is a little bit of an issue down here. There's, like I say, there's a bit of parking just near the pub there. But check out some of these old wooden beach bungalows. Again, all raised off the ground because this is prone to flooding up here. There's some new ones that have been built over there. You can see they've been raised up. It's at the end of the day, so it's quite quiet down here at the minute. Get some nice cod and chips in there. But they've closed up quite early today. You get some fresh seafood just here. Used to be able to go crabbing on this pier. They've now banned it. You kind of got a crab from over there. But this is where you can get the ferry over to Baldsey. Tide's in at the minute, but you can see how far this does go out. You get the ferry over there and you can just have a walk around the other side of Baldsey Manor. And here the opening to the River Deben. So if you wanted to take a trip over there, £3 single, £5 for a return. There's a little bit of a beach over there. Quite nice to walk around here. You get that lovely smell of fish and you hear the clanging of the boats. It's quite therapeutic. You see all the boats that are just out there moored, and you can even buy a boat if you fancy it. 795 quid. Probably needs a little bit of work. Look at these little huts. That's so good. One thing you'll notice, there's loads of little boats here just moored up. It's just littered with boats. It does make you think, who owns these boats? They're just everywhere. There's like one more just out there. There's another one over there. There's a few more around here. It's just so peaceful. I do love this part of Felixstowe. It doesn't feel like the same place. You wouldn't believe the Port of Britain is just literally up the road. See all the way along into Suffolk, how the River Deben goes in just there. This is a houseboat, to say the least. Wow, it's crazy. Look at that. Imagine that going out in the North Sea. If you've seen that movie, A Series of Unfortunate Events with Jim Carrey, I think that's the movie. It's just like something like that. You'll be surprised how many of these actually are available to rent. There you go, you can rent that for 55 quid a day. Nice balcony as well. And they have some fantastic views over Baldsey and of course out into the North Sea. Just walking past Felixstowe Ferry Sailing Club. So you can see in front of me there's a Martello Tower there. There's another Martello Tower just beyond that, and it's amazing how this particular one has been turned into a house. I think it was sold a few years ago for the odd couple of million. But don't think you can go swimming in here as well, because the tides are really dangerous and they zip in and out, so it's not advisable to go swimming. Started off a nice sunny day. It's a shame the sun's gone in. So I've come to the far end of the seafront. Just around the corner there is the Naze Tower and the nature reserve. As I swing round, we can see a long way in the distance, it's a long walk, Walton Pier, which is pretty long. And we're going to take a walk on the pier, and you'll see why this particular pier is not one of my favourites. We'll see why later. So we're going to walk along the cliff edge here and then walk down onto the seafront. So just walking up this part of the cliff top, you come across all these very nice houses. Every little seaside resort you go, they always have what I would call a millionaire's row. And definitely some of these houses, I wouldn't say they're worth £1 million, but they sure are nice. And they're probably worth a lot more than my house, car, and my sister's house combined. And today is one of the hottest days of the year. I think the temperatures here in Essex are going to peak at about 36 degrees. Thankfully, this is why people come to the coast, because it's a bit more comfortable. It's 26 degrees here today. That's a lovely house over there. It's always been my dream to have a house and a garden that stretches out, and then you see nothing else but sea one day. And definitely the place to be today, on the water. People out there on jet skis, sailing on boats. So a little point of interest, if you ever come into Walton-on-the-Naze and you fancy coming to see a museum, you can check out the smallest museum here in Essex. It's the Walton Maritime Museum. And obviously because of coronavirus, museums aren't currently open. But fascinating that this used to be the old lifeboat house as well. I think this was built back in 1884, so it's a pretty old building. So if you are going to be doing this particular walk, best thing to do, get refreshed at the Last Fisherman's Cafe. So Walton-on-the-Naze is very quiet. It's got a really lovely beach and pier, and I guess if you want a little bit more action, you could just go further up the coast towards Clacton. And if you're a big fan of Clacton, next week, that is where we're going to be going. Now they're very pleasing on the eye. How pretty are they? Very posh. There's one up there for sale if you're interested. Can you see how clear the seawater is today? Look at that. And I think you'll agree, this is the busiest day I've ever seen Walton-on-the-Naze. The first amusements I've seen on the seafront. So if you head in that direction, you go briefly into, I guess you'd call it the town, but it's more like a high street, to be honest. And I thought there was a sign I saw coming in, and there it is, just to prove you're in England's friendliest resort. And coming up here, Walton-on-the-Naze has always been quite famous actually for its seafront gardens. So as we walk up here, we come to Walton Pier. And I don't know what it is about piers in Essex, but they do like to be long. However, as you see, my only criticism for Walton Pier is it could do with a little bit of an upgrade. It's looking rusty, it's looking pretty bad. So it is really busy today. We'll see how far we get inside the pier. Kind of reminds me of a train station or a warehouse. I love this though, such a classic funfair ride. Look at that. I know these dodgems have been here for a long time. So yeah, I mean, the kids can buy wristbands to go on the rides in here, especially if the weather's a bit rubbish outside. Never been in here, but this always looks pretty good, the ghost train. It's well themed actually. So a great place here, which is always quite nice actually, because it's always out of the wind, this part of the pier. And we're going to walk right to the end and check out what's on the end of it. As I said, when you look at the paintwork and everything, it really is looking a little bit sorry for itself, this pier. I mean, I've only walked literally just, I would say about, I don't know, 20, 30 metres. And just look how far we are away from the beach already. Look at the colour of the water today. Makes me want to jump in. It's so odd to look on the pier and just see it go on as far as the eye can see with people in the distance. It's crazy. I wonder if this is as big as Southend Pier. Probably not actually, but I don't think it's far off it. And I always talk about beach huts wherever I go. Walton-on-the-Naze, by far, has the most amount of beach huts I have ever seen in any coastal resort. Just look how many there are over there. We'll go and check those out in a minute. It freaks people out when they're walking on a pier that they can actually see the sea underneath. I kind of like it. I guess if you're scared of heights, maybe it might scare you, I'm not sure. Let me know in the comments below. And the fact that when you're walking on it, some parts wobble. I know that I had an ex-girlfriend who used to have this phobia of walking on piers. Does anyone else know someone they know who has a phobia of piers? I don't know what it's actually called, but let me know in the comments below if you do. So just like in Cromer, at the end of the pier here, we find the Walton and Frinton lifeboat. Certainly is a long walk to the lifeboat in an emergency, right? It's actually really calming just to hear the water. It's very calm today, as you can see. In fact, it's almost like a pond. So we can't get to the end of the pier. Apparently it's for members only. A few people fishing up there. The water today looks so inviting. And just there in the distance you can see the Walton Tower. And I started my walk off just literally over there, walked all the way along the seafront and up here towards the pier. And yeah, I'm managing to go under the pier. Look at that. The water is so warm and so clear. Again, I've got this thing with coming under piers because I find them so unique. Can I walk on this? Yeah. And this is where we come up to these really unique beach huts. And this is where we come up to these really unique beach huts. And it really is like a beach hut city. You've got them on so many different levels. They've even got their own decking, look. What a view. Surprised that nobody are in these ones today. All the other lower ones are all pretty busy. Wonder if you have to pay extra for the decking, or maybe what some people have put in, some solar powered lights as well. And just literally behind the pier, we come up to this little area where, if you fancy it, you can do the Martello Tower trail, which, if you look directly in front of you, you can see it just in the distance. So you can see the church in the background. If you follow this trail, you'll get to the Martello Tower. You walk through this new housing estate. And like most Martello Towers nowadays, this one has also been bought privately, and I think someone's living in there. Really random to see it in the shadow of like normal houses. And just walking away from the town, up in this direction, we come to Naze Marina. This is just so pretty. So peaceful as well. So my last trip here in Walton-on-the-Naze is the Naze Centre, and more importantly, the Naze Tower. It was a navigational tower constructed to assist ships on the otherwise fairly featureless coast. You can climb the 111 step spiral staircase to the top of the tower, which I've done before. It stands at 86 foot, 26 metres, for a 360-degree view of the beach and countryside. And this is an absolutely huge area to come if you want to have a picnic. Wow, there's not many places to go for a walk like this. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to go any further. And in the distance there you can see Harwich and Felixstowe. And from this direction you can actually walk all the way along the Naze. So that was Walton on the Naze. What did you think of it? Tell me in the comments. As always, please give the video a like and make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you next time.